This story is about paranormal investigators who visited the graveyard. The Graveyard of Souls. In a remote part of the countryside, hidden among overgrown trees, stood an old graveyard known as the Graveyard of Souls. It had been abandoned for years, but stories of strange events and disappearances kept people away. Its gravestones were cracked and weathered, marking the graves of those long forgotten. One cold October evening, a team of 4 ghost hunters arrived at the graveyard. The team included James, the leader, Maria, his partner, Tom, the tech expert, and Emily, a medium who could sense spirits. They wanted to find out the truth behind the graveyard's spooky reputation. As the sun set, casting long shadows, the team set up their equipment. They placed cameras, motion detectors, and audio recorders around the graveyard. Emily tried to connect with any spirits, while James and Maria prepared to document everything. The graveyard was eerily quiet, with only the wind rustling the leaves. The air felt heavy as they walked between the old gravestones. The temperature dropped, and a thick fog rolled in from the fields. Emily, the medium, walked slowly, her eyes closed, trying to feel any supernatural presence. She suddenly stopped, her face turning pale.
"I feel something dark,"
she said.
"It feels like a cold hand gripping my shoulder."
Tom, checking his equipment, noticed strange readings.
"We're not alone here,"
he said. As they explored, strange things began happening. The cameras showed shadowy figures moving between the gravestones, and the motion detectors went off with no visible cause. The audio recorders captured whispers and distant cries that grew louder as they went further. The team decided to check out a creepy tomb at the center of the graveyard. The heavy iron door was slightly open, and inside was pitch dark. The air was damp and smelled of mildew. Inside, they found a narrow hallway leading to a small room. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and an old altar sat in the middle. The altar had dusty relics on it, some old tools, and some that looked strange and unfamiliar. When James examined the altar, the temperature dropped suddenly. His breath was visible in the freezing air, and a deep, growling sound echoed through the room. Their equipment started malfunctioning, and their flashlights flickered out. The ground shook violently, and a cold wind blew through the mausoleum. The symbols on the walls began to glow with a creepy light. The room seemed to twist and bend, making it hard to stand. Emily saw dark, shadowy figures appearing on the walls. They were twisted and scary, their faces hidden behind masks of fear and rage. The spirits reached out with ghostly hands.
"Run!"
James yelled, but their way out was blocked by a wall of darkness that seemed to move and pulse. The shadows surrounded them, and their whispers turned into screams of pain and anger. The team struggled to stay together, but the darkness separated them. Tom's equipment was overwhelmed, and his screams were cut off as a shadowy figure enveloped him. Maria, now alone and terrified, found a hidden passage behind the altar. She crawled through it and ended up in an old, hidden crypt. The crypt had ancient coffins with the same strange symbols on them. In the crypt, Maria saw a ghostly figure, a woman with hollow eyes and a sad expression. The ghost floated toward Maria, her voice a whisper of sadness.
"Free us.
She begged.
End the curse."
Maria realized the crypt held the key to escaping the graveyard's horrors. She found an old book with rituals and spells. With shaking hands, Maria began to read from the book, hoping to calm the restless spirits. The room grew colder, and the shadows grew angry. Just as the shadows seemed to close in, a bright light burst from the book. The spirits screamed and were pulled into the light. The darkness lifted, and the crypt was quiet again. Maria found the others, who were unconscious but alive. The curse seemed to be broken, and the graveyard's dark presence faded away. The team left the graveyard, deeply shaken by what they had experienced. They never spoke about that night, but their haunted faces told the story. The Graveyard of Souls remains a place of fear. The story of the ghost hunters who went there serves as a warning. Some places are best left alone. Next story belongs to Haunted Mental Asylum, Whispers of the Cursed Asylum. What if I told you that some of the most haunted places on Earth were once home to the most vulnerable souls? In the middle of the forgotten woods, hidden from the world, stands an abandoned mental asylum. This old, dark place is full of frightening stories and scary secrets. Years ago, this asylum was a place of pain. Patients considered insane were given cruel and harsh treatments. Their screams and the cold silence of the asylum made it a place of real terror. People who pass by the asylum hear cries that chill them to their bones, and whispers that seem to come from the walls themselves. On stormy nights, when the wind howls and the trees twist in the dark, the spirits of those who suffered in the asylum are said to wander its empty hallways. Shadows move and disappear, and ghostly figures are seen by anyone brave enough to enter. One night, a group of friends looking for a thrill decided to explore the asylum. With flashlights and cameras, they entered the dark, not knowing the horrors waiting inside. As they walked deeper into the asylum, they felt a growing sense of fear. The air turned icy, and their flashlights began to flicker. Strange noises, scratching, whispering, and distant screams filled the darkness around them. Suddenly, chains rattled in the silence. They looked around but saw nothing. Panic set in as their flashlights went out, leaving them in total darkness. They stumbled into an old operating room. Rusty tools lay scattered, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. As they tried to find their way, the door slammed shut behind them with a loud bang. In the quiet, they heard it. The cries of tortured souls. Their voices seemed to come from every direction, and the room grew colder by the second. Desperate to escape, they tried to force the door open, but it was as if something was holding it shut. The whispers grew louder, forming words that seemed to come from the walls.
Join us, forever, in the darkness.
Just when they thought they were trapped forever, the door creaked open, revealing a dark figure in the doorway. Its hollow eyes glowed, and its voice, cold and eerie, said,
"Leave now or be part of the curse forever."
Terrified, the group ran out of the asylum, their hearts racing. They dashed through the dark halls, the cries of the lost souls following them. They burst into the night, never looking back, haunted by what they had seen. They swore never to speak of what they had seen. But the horrors they witnessed haunted their dreams forever, and they have never been the same as before. Today, the asylum stands as a symbol of suffering, its dark secrets hidden in the ruins. Those who get too close will hear the whispers of the damned, forever trapped in the shadows. Beware the cursed asylum, for it holds horrors that should never be disturbed. The last is about a friends on a trip, unaware that the place they plan to rest will change their lives forever. The Sinister Rest Area. As the sun set, Carla, Jim, Natalie, and Mike were driving down a lonely highway, tired from their long road trip. They spotted a rest area up ahead and decided to stop. The rest area's sign flickered weakly in the darkening sky, but it seemed like their only option for a break. When they arrived, the parking lot was empty, and the rest area looked old and run down. The building appeared deserted, with peeling paint and broken windows. They went inside, hoping to rest for a while. The inside was dimly lit and even creepier than they had expected. A vending machine in the corner was rusty and covered in grime. Instead of snacks, it spat out strange notes with cryptic messages like, "You're not alone," and "Escape as soon as you can." The friends decided to ignore the warnings. The lights above flickered and buzzed, casting long, erratic shadows on the walls. The graffiti on the walls was disturbing, showing grotesque faces and strange symbols that seemed to move and shift when they looked away. Despite the creepy atmosphere, they decided to stay for a bit. Jim went to use the restrooms while Carla, Natalie, and Mike sat at a table. As the night fell, the rest area's eerie vibe intensified. The hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, and rooms shifted positions, as if the building was alive. Their phones and watches stopped working, and the clocks on the walls were stuck at different times. Strange noises began to fill the air. Whispers seemed to come from nowhere, and footsteps echoed in empty corridors. Distant cries of someone or something lost and forlorn pierced the silence. The sounds seemed to come from all directions, making it hard to figure out where they were coming from. Realizing they were trapped in a nightmarish maze, the friends began to panic. Ghostly figures with hollow eyes appeared, reaching out with ghostly hands. The rest area felt like it was closing in on them, with walls shifting and floors moving beneath their feet. As they searched desperately for a way out, they encountered the rest area's staff. The staff seemed strange and unsettling. They had the same blank expressions and unchanging demeanor. Their eyes were cold and distant, and they spoke in monotonous voices that lacked any real emotion. The friends couldn't shake the feeling that the staff were not quite human, as if they were somehow part of the rest area's sinister force. In their search, they found old tattered documents hidden in a storage closet. The papers revealed a horrifying history. The rest area had once been used for dark rituals by a cult that trapped travelers and fed off their fear. The rest area was designed to ensnare anyone who stopped there, feeding the cult's malevolent force. The friends knew they had to confront the dark force to escape. The rest area twisted around them, becoming a chaotic whirl of terror. The dark entity that controlled the rest area revealed itself as a nightmarish mass of shadows and distorted shapes. It seemed to feed on their fear, growing stronger as they panicked. In a final desperate attempt to escape, Carla and Jim fought their way through the nightmarish corridors. They encountered more ghostly figures and nightmarish creatures, but their determination kept them going. After a harrowing struggle, they found a way out and burst into the cold night air, gasping for breath. Behind them, the rest area seemed to collapse into darkness. They heard the desperate screams of Natalie and Mike as they fled. Turning back, Carla and Jim saw the rest area's walls closing in on their friends, the shadows swallowing them whole. The sounds of their screams faded, leaving only silence. Carla and Jim drove away from the rest area as quickly as they could. They were shaken and deeply traumatized, knowing they had narrowly escaped a horrific fate. The rest area remained hidden in the shadows, waiting for the next travelers to stumble into its trap. Natalie and Mike's screams haunted Carla and Jim as they continued their journey. The rest area's dark secret was safe, its malevolent force ready to ensnare anyone who dared to stop. The eerie staff remained in place, their unchanging faces a grim reminder of the rest area's dark power.